Let's jump in. We're going to talk a little bit about finance. We're going to talk about multiple different topics. I think for a very long time, my entire focus, all of my energy went into how can I make more money? How can I earn more commissions? How can I get better? And as I started making money, as I started making a lot more money, I started learning a lot of lessons, honestly the hard way. So we're going to talk about some of these things. Before we do, I've heard some goals from you guys, 20 grand a month, 10 grand a month, all of these different things. Let's go a little bit deeper. I want to hear some of our financial goals at this table when it comes to building wealth, when it comes to 5 years from now, 10 years from now, what we want to do. Anything come to mind?
Yeah, own multiple assets. That's really what I'm after.
Own multiple assets. What does that mean?
Own cash flowing assets. We'll have a good stock portfolio, a mixed stock portfolio, some real estate, and art.
Okay. You said a stock portfolio, real estate, cash flowing, have some art as well, right? Go a little bit deeper. How much real estate, how much assets do you want to be able to stack up in total? What's your goal? What's your number?
10 million.
Okay, sure. When you say like cash flowing, like for the purpose of what? Like we're making all this money, right? We want freedom. So like, what does that look like? Like, what's your freedom number?
Freedom number? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, how much do I need to make a year or in total?
The purpose of investing and building your net worth, bottom line, it comes down to the income that you earn from it, right? So yeah, what's the goal? Like, where do you want to get to?
Hopefully I can get to 10 million, and for me it's generational wealth. I just want to create that for my daughter.
Okay, cool. I love that. That's awesome. I align with a lot of that. What else?
I want to get to move 30 grand a month into closing, live off this, and then stack 20 grand a month into real estate. So I've got a real estate portfolio. I've just got 30 grand a month.
Get your real estate portfolio to a place where it's paying you 30 G's a month. Okay, cool. Who else? This is important to think about, right? Because at the end of the day, it's like, okay, like if we're working towards making 10 grand, making 20 grand a month, the biggest thing that really I want to challenge you guys on is to think a little bit bigger, right? When I started looking into the future, when I started asking myself, hey, like where do I need to be when I'm 30? Where do I need to be when I'm 40? Where do I need to be when I'm 50? Right? And I really understand some of those numbers. Now I can work backwards, right? And I've gotten clear on a lot of these things, and you guys should as well, okay? And let me tell you exactly why. We're living in a crazy fucking world right now. How much of you guys are like really following kind of just the world, economics, what the fuck the Fed is doing, what's happening? At the end of the day, this is something that stands out to me, right? The rich get richer, right? And the divide is increasing at a faster rate than ever before, right? I looked at the numbers. Over the last 3 years, the divide between the top 10% and the bottom 90% has tripled at the rate that it is increasing. Does that make sense? So the gap is increasing 3 times as fast that it was over the last 15 years, right? The reason why this happens is because rich people, right, people who have money, people who come from generational wealth, they have all of their money into assets, right? What was the biggest economic event that happened in the last 5 years?
COVID.
Pandemic.
Okay, what exactly happened?
It's not money flowing.
Printing a bunch of money.
Okay, and as a result, what does that do?
Inflation.
What does that mean? Because that means 2 things.
It gets more expensive to live.
It becomes much more expensive to live, okay? Groceries triple, rent, mortgages, all of that's going up. In Canada, it's fucking insane. It's really bad over here, and it's only gonna get much worse, right? Okay, cool. So like, what we know is for the little guy, they get screwed, right? When the government starts sending out checks, when the government starts sending everybody 2 Gs, whatever, when they start doing these things, they spend the money, it just funnels straight to the top just for some CEO to go and make 50 million 1 year. Meanwhile, people who are stuck making 40, 50, even 80 grand a year, they're struggling, right? Credit card debt is at all-time highs, right? So the little guy gets fucked, right? The people who are struggling get screwed, right? At the same time, while all of that is happening, the people who have their money in assets, they're getting rich beyond belief. The freaking CEO of Boeing, I think, made like 55 million in the same year where they're like killing whistleblowers in their company. But that's a different story, right? But the people at the top are going to continue to make more money, and this is something that only is going to move faster, right? I don't want to get too much into like economics, but it's something that I've done a lot of reading on. You know, when you look at somebody like Ray Dalio, right? Whenever a world power starts printing money, it's basically a cycle that will never stop. As more and more money is printed, right, which will continue to happen, the little guy is going to continue to get fucked, and the people at the top are going to continue to make more money, right? This is just human nature. These are just some of the laws of the world from what I've seen, okay? So what makes it worse, right? When you look at home prices, right? All of us, okay, we're working hard. At the bare minimum, we want to be able to have a home. We want to be able to support a family, right? A lot of the men in the room, like one of my goals personally is I want to be in a position where I can support a large family, where my wife doesn't have to work, kids are paid for, everything is taken care of, right? When you look at 5 years ago, 6 years ago, median home price is 280, now it's 400, okay? Compare that to median income. I believe the jump, the cost of a house and living in a home went up 40%, the median income went up 8%, right? This is why when I say the rate at which the gap between the rich and the poor is tripling, this is exactly what it is, live in action, right? So what does that mean for us? Really 3 options here, guys. One is to be poor and just accept the situation that we're in, right? If you're making 74, even on that, right? If you're, back to this slide really quick. Oh man, I forgot the math, but I was looking at the math on this, right? To be able to afford a $400,000 house, like comfortably paying a mortgage, being able to support, you know, maybe 1 or 2 people, covering bills, expenses, and like living a decent life, you need to be making over 100 grand. In Canada here, you're not getting anything for less than $1 million, unless it's a shoebox, right? And depending on where you live, it's probably very similar, right? If you're making anything less than 100, you are paycheck to paycheck if you expect to own a home. Right? And again, it's only just increasing, right? So we can either be poor, right? Accept being average, right? Average is 74. This is what most people make, right? You can move to Thailand or go live in a fucking treehouse in a country where the currency isn't valued as at anything, or we can make way more money and max out our net worth, right? At the end of the day, the only way that we're going to be able to create real freedom, especially as closers, right? Like, let's not get this twisted. Like, we are working to make money. We grind our fucking asses off every single day to close deals, to make more money every single month. Okay? The only way, like, we do this, right? You're not doing this to do this forever, right? You should not be working 12 hours a day when you're 40, 50. Right? Maybe to a different capacity, maybe something else. But if you're closing deals, if your daily routine looks exactly like it does right now, what that means is you haven't properly thought out your net worth, your wealth, and what your long-term plan is. Okay? So with that said, yeah, I mean, as closers, right? Okay, we can make a lot of money in a single month, but this has to be a part of our thought process. And especially over the last, couple of years, it's been a major part of mine. Okay, so we got to think bigger, get better, make more money, and buy assets aggressively to create wealth, right? When I say buy assets, am I saying like unload all of your money into, freaking stocks, crypto, whatever right now? No, not at all. Honestly, and I'm gonna speak about this a little bit more, but my personal opinion and what I've done, I was investing into anything until I was making at least 6 figures, right? Everything else was going back into my skill sets and back into myself, right? But this is the goal. Right, this is how we create freedom, right? Like Dina, what you were talking about, getting to a place where you have 10 million invested and it's throwing out, whatever it is a year, right? Where now you don't have to work as much. Now you actually have some kind of freedom, right? This is the goal.
I just want to add to this. I think this also ties back into what Armand was saying with regards to understanding your goals to a high level. Do you guys know what lifestyle you want to live? Who here really understands what lifestyle they want to live? Killer, what's the lifestyle you want?
I want to live working 6 hours a day, my wife, 3 kids, being a present father, and then dedicating
Lifestyle. What is the lifestyle?
Sure.
House, cars.
Okay, so yes, live in a coastal city, in a house that we own, kids. I spend 6 hours a day working. I spend the rest of the time in Muay Thai gym with my kids.
What's it going to cost you to live that lifestyle?
Depends where I'm going to be at, because I could like to be in Brazil.
Likely what?
Be in Brazil. My wife's Brazilian. I might be going back to Brazil.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the number?
At least
No,
200K.
no. What is the number?
200K.
At least is a bare minimum.
200K.
So 20K a month, basically.
Yeah.
17K a month.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, great. Do you know how much in assets you would need to have to make 17K a month?
No.
See, so you guys this is what that ties into. Like, you don't want to just make money to buy assets for fun, right? Like, that's not why we're buying assets. We're buying assets to pay for our goal, our lifestyle. You want a Lambo, you want a Benz, you want 2 houses, find out what that shit is going to cost you and reverse engineer the math, the cash flow that you need to make that, right? There's a strong correlation between what Amal was talking about and this. I want you guys to kind of think about that connection while Misha speaks.
First off, who here wants to be a millionaire? Millionaire closer for real, right? That's why we're all here, bottom line. The thing is, as long as you're not fucking stupid, at one point in your life you will be, right? You do the whole compound investing over 30, 50 years, you'll get there. I don't know about you guys, but I want to be rich when I'm young. I don't want to wait till I'm 50 and 60, right? So who here's done the math on that? Every single person put their hand up saying they want to be a millionaire, right? What's the plan to actually get there? Like, what does that look like? How do we stack up $1 million?
Wouldn't it be like multiple sources of income?
Speak up a little bit.
Wouldn't it be like multiple sources of income or something?
That doesn't have much to do with it. Well, part of it, yeah, is the money that you're making. Why does having multiple streams of income or one stream of income changes nothing?
That's right.
I calculated it, and if I put in like 25K a year into the S&P 500 with 7% growth, I think I'd reach $1 million in like 35 years or something like that.
That seems a little bit long, but okay, sure. Let's say that, right? Okay, 25K a year. So how much do you need to be putting in a month to do that?
Like 2K.
Sure, yeah, a little bit over 2K, call it 2K. Okay, great. Now, when you look at your month-to-month expenses, right, everything that you spend money on just to get by one single month, right? When you add on top of that, you're gonna take a trip, you're gonna live your life, you're gonna do certain things, right? You're not gonna live 100% frugally and never spend your money ever, right? How much do you need to make to be able to set aside $2,000 every single month, no questions asked, for the next 30 years? 6K? Okay, sure. I mean, break that down. You make 6K, you pay taxes on that. I don't know where you're living. Call it at least, just to be conservative. You pay $1,000 in taxes. You have 5K left over. If you're single?
Yeah.
Okay, let's say you spend, on your month-to-month living expenses, again, being frugal, you spend 3K on living expenses. What are you left with? You're left with $2,000 exactly. Like, you are living on the brink, right? You cannot do anything, So like, this is something that I've done the math on, to multiple different levels, and you guys should too. Open up ChatGPT. I use ChatGPT every single day, right? What's your goal, Anthony?
That's not the goal, but
No, sure, but like, okay, you want to make $1 million by when?
next 2 years.
In the next 3 years. Okay, sure. What's your month-to-month living expenses?
Right now,
Okay, well, in the next 3 years isn't realistic, right? But call it this. Hey, I have my friend Anthony over here. He's here for a mastermind event in Toronto. He's trying to figure out how to make $1 million in the next 10 years, right? His living expenses are how much?
3K a month? 2K?
Are 3K a month. Are 3K a month right now. How much money does he need to be investing into assets or setting aside every single month? Rather, how much money does he need to be making to be able to set aside enough money every single month to go and make $1 million in the next 10 years? Can we just talk to ChatGPT now? It's fucking crazy. Okay, let it do the math for a second. I already did it for us. Okay, here's the math for you guys. Maybe take a picture of that. This opened my eyes a lot when I actually did the math here. Assuming an 8% return. That's what this is, by the way. Assuming an 8% return, right? That's exactly what you need to do, right? So if it's 30 years, it's like, okay, like maybe that's some of your guys' goals, right? Like maybe you don't want to be, grinding crazy hard and making sacrifices and doing all this stuff. Maybe you want to have like a modest lifestyle, go with the flow, and you want to get there in a year. What I will, or in 30 years. What I will tell you, 30 years from now, $1 million isn't going to be worth shit. You know, what it's worth now isn't even going to be close to it. You know, 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, right? What I'm concerned with personally is how can I get up to this level? Right? Like, how can I get to a place where, like, again, without taking a crazy amount of risk? I don't want to be dumping 100% of all of my leftover income into assets. I think that's stupid, frankly, right? There needs to be cash reserves as well. So how much do I need to be making to comfortably set aside, you know, call it anywhere between 6 to 10 grand a month? You know, now all of a sudden you start realizing, okay, hey, if I want to be a millionaire before I'm 30, what that means is I'm going to have to get to a place where I'm making roughly 30, 40, 50 grand a month consistently over a 5-year stretch. And if I can do that, boom, you get to your million. And like, listen, if that's, you know, you throw that into a safe investment, you know, it'll throw out, I don't know, D what? 5% a year. If you're going zero risk, if you put it into an S&P, if you have $1 million, you can take 80 grand a year off of that, no?
8%?
Yeah.
$1 million? Yeah, very conservatively, yes. But when you have money, you have better opportunities.
Exactly.
Which, hey,
But anyways, just to keep it simple, you get here, 5 years of your life, you max out the skill set, you max out the opportunity that is literally being laid out in front of you step by step, right? We're all here, we've been in this game for the last 5 years. Our goal here is just to show you exactly what we've figured out over these 5 years and just give you the blueprint so you don't have to take as long to figure it out, right? That's what it is. 5 years of grinding and mastery in the space, and boom, you make 80 grand a year for the rest of your life without leaving your bedroom. It's pretty cool, right? Cool. So I think there's 3 big skills to learn here, right? There's making money, keeping it, and then figuring out how to grow it. These 3 things are very different skill sets, and understand that they are a skill set. Keeping money, easier said than done, especially when you're making a lot of it. One of the things that I realized, especially before I, you know, really started leveling up with the money that I was making, one of the things I realized was, like, if you were making 100 grand a month, just for example, would you know how to handle it? Like, would you know how much you would need to set aside for taxes? Would you know how much of a percentage you're setting aside into a cash reserve? Like, would you know how much you're investing every single month with that? You would have no fucking clue. And like, chances are, like, if I just wave the magic wand and you're making 100 grand, by the end of the year, the IRS has you in jail because you fucked some shit up. You don't know what you're doing. Maybe you've blown it all. You've done some dumb shit, right? Keeping money is a really important skill set. So let's get into it. Three big things with keeping money. Number 1, does anyone in here have a corporation set up? Okay, nice. Good. Cool. I think one of the major benefits of what we do as closers is the fact that we are independent contractors, right? Now, what I talk about, I dropped out of an accounting program. These are just things that I've learned from Dylan, that I've gone out and done my own research on. I'm just sharing with you my understanding of all of this. Do your own research. Go figure out what the hell it is for your area. Go get a tax professional, whatever. All I'm gonna be sharing with you guys is what I've done, the strategies that I've used to figure out how to keep money, right? One of the biggest advantages of being a closer is the fact that you can be an independent contractor, right? So essentially, you can act as a business owner, right? As a business owner, one of the reasons why the rich continue to get richer is why? What am I getting at here?
You get a lot of tax breaks.
Exactly. Right? You get tax breaks. You have certain write-offs. You have advantages that the average person does not have, right? Every single, whether you guys are from the US, the UK, whether you're from Canada, all of these countries, they incentivize business owners, right? They want you to continue growing your business because you are a benefit to the economy, right? So as a byproduct, they give you advantages that most people will never have. Right? If you work a corporate 9-to-5 job and you're making $250,000 a year, as a closer making 100 grand a year, you can probably live the exact same lifestyle. And I'm making assumptions here, but you guys get what I'm saying, right? You have more freedom. There's a lot more that you can do. And if you know what you're doing, there's a lot that comes with it, right? Multiple bank accounts. When I asked you guys that question, okay, if I gave you, snap a finger, you make 100 grand a month, you wouldn't know what the hell to do with it, right? So it's like, no matter what you're making right now, right? Regardless, if you have a goal of making more, and your current setup does not allow you to make more, then you're screwing yourself from making more, right? Like you're not accepting that as a possibility, right? When I was making like, you know, 3, 4, 5 grand a month, like I was thinking about this stuff because I realized this. I was like, hey, like if I started making 20 grand a month next month, like I wouldn't know what the fuck I'm doing with my taxes. I don't have an accountant who's telling me what to do. You know, I don't have things set up properly. I made the adjustment and then all of a sudden, you know, you kind of open up that opportunity for you, right? And then also is just discipline, right? Is not being a fucking idiot, like straight up. When it comes to something that, Giles, when we were looking at all the things that Aman was talking about, right? When it comes to auditing your life, I think the biggest thing with that is it's instant gratification versus delayed gratification in every single thing. Like, is there anything where when you have those two options, right? Instant gratification versus delayed gratification. Is the instant gratification ever the better move? Right? It's always about pushing things out, right? Waking up right on the dot to go to the gym, going to the gym today rather than tomorrow, right? Instead of, you get home after a long day, rather than playing a video game, you open up a book, right? You delay the gratification for later. You do the things that you don't want to do so that tomorrow you can do the things you do want to do, right? This is the exact same thing when it comes to keeping money. Okay, so let's talk about it. Here's 2 examples. Can you guys read this okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's an example of a closer, 2 closers making $100,000 in commissions. One has a corporation, one doesn't. Okay, with these numbers, all these tax rates, I'm going off of the Canadian tax rates in Ontario. Figure out what they are for you. From what I've seen, is it's not overly different for a lot of the countries that we're all from, right? So let's start here, right? Let's say you're making 100 grand, you get taxed 21. Net income is 78, right? The invest in yourself thing I'm going to get into in a second, right? But conclusion, you're left with 58 left to go and live your life, right? After you invest into yourself 20 grand. And that's kind of the big thing that I want to talk about here. As a business owner, right? Again, you're incentivized to invest into your business, right? To continue growing your business, to put money back into the business rather than take profit. It's like you continue making more money and you can continue benefiting your economy. Does that make sense? Cool. So what you can do is when you set up your corporation, right, and when you're getting your commission checks through your corporation, all of a sudden, boom. If you guys, like everyone who came here today, is anybody writing off this trip? Great. Awesome. Right? 3 people? 1, 2, 3? Right? Dylan gave a good example. Eric, he bought a jet recently for like 6 million.
Okay, hold on. Let's not go over confidential conversations.
Okay, sure. Regardless, somebody like that, right? You buy a jet for 6 million, right? At the tax rate that he's at, that's getting taxed at 50% easily, if not more, right? So by spending on your business, right, it's essentially you're saving yourself 50% on that. Does that make sense? So that's exactly what we're doing here. And this is something that I've been going hard on for probably the last 2 years, right? This is something that I understand. So same closer, right? 100%, 100K in commissions in the bank. Let's say throughout the year, you spend about 20 grand on yourself, right? On travel, on courses, on masterminds, stuff like this. This is the fucking needle mover, by the way, guys. Like this is how you get to the next level, right? Is by getting into the room, investing into yourself, and getting knowledge from people who are 5 years ahead of you who can just lay out the blueprint for you. This is the cheat code, right? Okay, cool, you spend 20 grand on the business, you pay yourself a salary, 60K personally, right? So you essentially hire yourself. Corporate income that's taxable is 20 G's. You get a lower tax rate when you have a corporation, right? You're taxed at a lower rate, especially when you're under certain thresholds. In Canada, it's on the first 500 grand that you make as a business owner, you get this rate right here. I believe it might be 12.5, but it's about this, right? Now, when it comes to your personal 60K, you pay 10 in taxes, net personal is 50. You have 17 grand left in your business bank account at the end of the year. Net, you're left with 68, right? So basically, the big conclusion here, for those of you who are maybe aren't following me, the big conclusion here is the exact same closer making the exact same amount of money that took a little bit of time to learn about a corporate structure, get a bookkeeper or an accountant who could walk them through this, was able to spend an extra $10,000 on themselves to get to an event like this, while living the exact same lifestyle and not having to take away from anything day-to-day monthly expenses. Does that make sense? That extra 10 grand that you have because you set this up, right? That's the difference between you making 100 grand the next year or making 200 grand the next year, okay? And I think, and this is something that I've learned a lot from Dylan. You know, the goal, especially early on, right? When you're sub 100, like the goal is not to minimize taxes. You don't want to be doing that. You could, but that's not the goal, right? At the end of the day, when it comes to real estate, right? When it comes to, you know, if you want to get a lease on a condo or whatever, right? You need to be able to show income as well, right? So that's something that I learned also. You know, the goal here isn't to minimize all the money that you make completely, but it's just to use this stuff to your advantage. Right now, when you start making $250,000 a year, when you start making more than that, now it's a different story, right? And that's something that maybe, you know, Dylan will touch on a future mastermind, right? But this is really the structure, right, that I've used over the last few years. This is how I've been able to, you know, this is why I'm excited to invest into myself. This is why I'm excited to go take trips, take, you know, courses, masterminds, whatever, is because I know it's all coming off the business, right? You know what else? Okay, courses and masterminds and traveling. I get the newest Apple shit whenever it comes out. You know, brand new iPhone, souped up MacBook Pro, right? Because it comes off the business. Right, this is part of it, you know, subscriptions. You can, you know, do shit where you write off, you know, your home office, right? All of a sudden, things start opening up, right? I think the biggest takeaway here is learn about this stuff. Learn about it now, because, you know, even if you might be thinking, oh yeah, well, I'm not making 100 grand a year, it's not going to make a big difference, you know, write-offs and whatnot. Start acting as if you are that person, right? What are the actions of the person that is earning the amount of money that you want to be earning, and start acting like them? This is one of those things. Any questions about this?
Yeah. Someone you would recommend to watch? I don't know if it's like, I don't know, YouTube or maybe.
Honestly, I talk to Dylan about this stuff. Yeah, like YouTube and stuff. Like I'll learn about like the difference between paying yourself with a salary versus a dividend. Does anyone know what that is? Right? Like that's something you gotta know, right? What's the difference between salary versus a dividend? When it comes to, you know, should you be writing off every single dollar and telling the government that you made zero this year? You know, things like that, right? So like there's a little bit of planning that goes into this, right? You gotta understand what your goals are and what's important to you. I talked to Dylan about this, but just in general, and I also have an accountant who helps me with all this stuff. So I talked to him.
It's also super dependent on the country you're in.
Yeah.
I mean, watching an American, like, right, this guy's not gonna help you.
Find someone who knows what they're talking about. Like even like, you know, I would start with your family, right? Like people around you, people who are older, right? They probably know this stuff a lot better. Ultimately, you want to hire a bookkeeper, hire an accountant to walk you through a lot of this stuff. Any other questions?
Yeah, how do you open up a quote?
It's going to be different, but honestly, I think in the US it might be easier. Yeah.
It's online, just submit.
Yeah, like you could do it in less than a week.
You have to get some on income? No. I'll open mine up at like 6.
So, and that kind of, any other questions about this? Yeah, the stuff is huge. $10,000 extra that you have without changing any month-to-month expenses. Your lifestyle is exactly the same. You have an extra 10 grand to throw around, right? That is the difference between you staying in the same position versus you leveling up the next year and moving quick, right? Now, multiple bank accounts. When you set up a corporation, one of the things you're going to have is a bank account that's attached to it. Right? That's the business bank account. You don't buy anything on that bank account unless it is for business purposes. And then you have your personal bank account, right? That's just the first level to it. First of all, it starts with the mindset, right? Okay, we've talked a lot about the kind of money that we want to be making. All that really matters is how much we keep. Like what we make literally means nothing. It's how much do we keep, right? You see a lot of people, they make 10 grand a month, 20 grand a month, jack up their expenses, and they're living broke. In fact, that's one of the things that's completely changed over the last 5 years. When you see people who get into serious credit card debt, it's because of that reason. I think the stat is like something like 20-30% of people who make like between 100 to 150 grand a year are living paycheck to paycheck. Roughly something like that. That's not totally accurate, but That kind of stuff is going way up, right? It's how much money you keep. This is the goal. And when you set up multiple bank accounts, it's gonna make you a lot more aware of this. I read a book, and you guys should write it down if you're interested in learning this stuff. It's called Profit First by Mike Michalowicz, something like that. Profit First. I read this book, and I set up a lot of things because of it. First of all, this whole strategy in setting up multiple different bank accounts, it all runs on the small plate theory, right? If you're fat, if you're overweight, like one of the easiest things you can do is get rid of all your plates and start using smaller ones, right? So that you force yourself to eat less food and you lose weight, right? It's the exact same thing here, right? So some of the bank accounts that I have set up, right? Checking. This is day to day, month to month. I know the exact amount that I need to get through a single month comfortably, right? Every single month, that amount goes into the checking. Every single month, I know what my tax rate is, right? Like every single year and throughout the year, like I'm projecting how much I'm gonna be able to make. I'm looking at my tax amount that I'm gonna owe for that, and I'm setting that aside, right? Both in the business and also in the personal. When it comes to cash, right? Having a separate bank account where you're stacking cash, okay? Having some kind of reserves, investment. So let me walk you guys through, like I'll tell you what my allocations are, right? So I have, on a personal level, right? I have checkings, tax, and cash, okay? What I do is this is my month to month, this is what I set aside to tax. The moment that I get paid, I'm splitting up the money, right? The rest, I put into cash. From here, what I'm doing currently is I'm going 50-50. 50 I keep in cash, the other 50 I set aside for investment, okay? Investment, S&P 500, whatever you're into, right? I would say if you guys don't know anything about investing, like that's where you should be. But honestly, what I'm doing right now is probably different from a lot of you guys, what I'm doing right now is different than I was doing when I was in your guys' situation. What I was doing was all of this investment, I wasn't putting anything into S&P, I wasn't putting anything into Bitcoin, I wasn't doing any of that shit. I was setting aside the extra cash that I have every single month. I'm taking trips, I'm going to masterminds, I'm picking up courses, I'm learning things, right? I'm putting that back into myself. And that's how you learn faster. I'm such a big believer in that because I've seen the fucking proof. Like that is just how you accelerate everything. It's by trading your money to learn skills faster than it would on your own, right? So you're setting, if your goal is to invest into yourself, if your goal is to continue doing things like this, even if it's on a small level, even if it's spending $100 on a course, setting aside $50 a month to buy books, to go to 2 masterminds a year, right? If that's a goal of yours, you should have a bank account set up where you set aside a percentage of the money that you make every single month into that account. One of the things that I do, right, after I divide everything up, right, I throw it into the checkings, the tax, I set aside some money for cash just to sit on, I set aside a little bit of money to put into the market. All of a sudden I have, let's say you make 10 grand in a single month, right? All of a sudden that money just gets spread out all over everything. Okay, you feel good, you hit your first $10,000 month, cool. But all you've set aside is $1,000 to invest into yourself, which is kind of what it is when you're making 10 G's a month. You've set aside $1,000 to invest into yourself. You can't do a lot with that. All of a sudden, for me personally, I'm like, shit, I got a 10 grand, okay, cool, but like, how do I get to 20? How do I get to 30, right? Again, the small plate theory, right? By stretching it out into different accounts based on your goals and based on what you want to do, one, it's gonna make life a lot easier for you. When you're making a lot of money, like there's more stress and more disorganization that comes with it, right? The moment that I implemented a lot of this stuff, I got super clear on all my finances, all my goals. I'm able to project everything, and every single month I'm working towards all of it, okay? This was a major implementation for me. Any questions on this?
I have one comment. I go back to what Rome said, and like systemizing your life. I think it really applies well to finance, knowing where every single dollar is going. That's helped me personally a lot.
If you guys can't manage a small amount of money, good fucking luck managing more. And that was one of the lessons that I was figuring out, which I learned the hard way. I was struggling to manage a smaller amount of money, and I was blocking myself. I was blocking the blessing. I was blocking myself from making more.
So how many bank accounts do you have as of right now?
1, 2, 3, 4, 7. Yeah, from a personal, business, and everything mapped out. Again, I just want to like open your guys' eyes to this. This stuff is important. If you guys are interested, go get that book. It'll give you a lot of clarity there. And then you set goals around specific balances, right? I think, yeah, what's up?
What's the name of the book again?
Profit First. Okay. Now you set goals around specific balances, right? Does anyone have a goal here around, I don't know, investing into themselves, stacking up a certain amount of cash, setting aside money? Like, does anyone have a goal by the end of the year that you've set out that you want to hit?
Yeah, my savings account, I want 2.5 grand. My checking, I want 2.5 grand as well.
Okay, cool. So it's like, have you thought of exactly how much you need to be making every single month and what you need to be living like and what your budget needs to look like for you to be able to hit that by the end of the year?
It's at home on my wall. Sorry.
Awesome. Yeah, I would, and if not, throw that into ChatGPT. You know, hey, these are my exact goals. This is what I'm making right now. These are my monthly expenses. How do I have to set this up to be able to hit that goal? Right? Was there something over here?
Yeah. Wanted to save up 20 grand.
Okay, awesome. Figure out, set goals around specific account balances, right? With whatever it is, figure out what you need to be making to get there, what actions you need to take to go and make it happen, and you can go make it happen, right? Again, like going back to the main goal, right? We're trying to get to $1 million. We're trying to get to a place where we can set aside 5-10 grand a month comfortably, easily, to go throw into a portfolio where 5 years from now it's going to pay for everything in our lifestyle. The only way that happens is if you can do it on a micro level, right? And then we can start doing it on a bigger picture. Now, keeping money. Is everyone clear on keeping money? Does anyone have any questions about this before we move on? Cool. Yeah.
I'm just curious about your personal approach when it comes to reserves and saving, because a lot of times when I was growing up, I felt that savings were a waste. Like if it wasn't in a stock market, like a stock account, I felt like it was just one of the waste just sitting there because of inflation. So I try to do a minimum amount of saving just enough to have reserves. How do you approach savings?
Yeah. Well, one of the things when it comes to setting goals around specific account balances, one of the things that I realized is like having 10, 20 grand in an investment portfolio like does very little for you, right? What does that make you? If you have 20K in a portfolio, you make 2 grand a year out of that, you make less than 200 bucks a month, right? That is going to be way better served towards something else, right? That's my personal opinion, right? That's going to be better served towards spending, again, 20 grand to do whatever you need to do, right? Travel, get in certain rooms, learn certain skill sets, put yourself out there, advance your career, you know? That's my personal opinion. Now, when it comes to like cash and savings and everything, I think, you know, you got to have some cash. I think like who fucking knows what's going to happen? Who knows the way the world is going to go? But like, one of the things we're going to talk about, which, you know, I've learned is like when shit hits the fan, you need to have some it's called dry powder, right? Where you got some money to play with, right? When things go south, when COVID happens, for example, right? And everyone is stressing, you have cash in the bank to go and make a move, you know? I think there's also a lot of peace of mind that comes with having cash in a bank account,
So, like,
you know?
And your opinion, what's the best sort of format or place to keep and hold that cash? That's an emergency fund. Is it a savings account? What is it?
It's a cash account.
Cash account.
That's the way I see it. And that's an important account. That's probably where most of my money is allocated to. If you look at everything every single month, right? I'm concerned with net worth. That's what I'm looking at. Is my net worth, right? Is it increasing every single month? You know, if it's not like that, I don't like that. You know, so I'm really aware of that. You know, and having cash in the bank is part of it. You know, cool. So growing your money, right? Okay, you figured out how to keep your money. That's awesome. How do you actually grow it? What am I at on time right now? I've been going for like 45. Yeah. Okay, cool. I'll wrap this up. Growing money, skills and network. I think that's really where it started for me. I was getting really serious about that, and it doesn't even necessarily mean to go blow a bunch of money on programs and courses and travel. Like, don't get the wrong idea. Just getting serious about building your skills and building your network just in general. Credit, we'll talk a little bit about that, investing, and a little bit of real estate as well. First of all, this is what I'm investing in to level up my skills and my network, right? Books, probably like, the thing with books, who here, how many books a month are we reading, or books a year? I just want to kind of read the room.
12. Like 1 a month.
One a month? One a month?
Maybe like 6, 7.
6, 7?
4 a month.
4 a month? That's awesome. I love that. Do you read books to completion?
No, so sometimes there's just one key message
Yeah.
that they're trying to get across.
Yeah.
Once I grasp that message, I'll just like move, I'll skim through it.
Exactly.
And I'll just, like, move on.
I'm big on that. I used to get a book and feel the need to read the entire fucking thing, and it would just stop me from reading new
There's
books.
just like examples and repetition.
Yeah.
Like it's just trying to hone that
Yeah.
message.
Exactly. So I think number one is books, right? Set aside $100 a month to go and get some good books. Go to Chapters, fill your brain with some of the smartest people in the world who have put their life's work into a book that you can buy for $20. Go get yourself some books, right? Aside from that, courses in coaching, masterminds, travel, technology. Again, I have separate bank accounts set aside for this, and it's something that I'm excited to do. I don't feel guilty. I don't feel bad about spending money on this stuff because I know that these things are in direct proportion to the results that I'm going to see.
I always read books until completion, just because I don't know like what I'm looking for in the book. Sometimes I just find stuff like I didn't even know about. Is that something that you like have an intention when you get a book, like trying to figure out this thing, or like how does that work?
I read stuff in what I'm interested in, right? If I'm like, for example, the profit first thing, right? Like I'm like, shit, I need to figure out my finances. I saw somebody online talking about it. I'm like, boom, I need that book exactly. I didn't finish that book. I probably read about like 30% of it. I got exactly what I needed out of it.
Right, so
you know?
I don't need anything else that's going to tell.
Yeah, so there's like psycho-cybernetics, where it's like that's like a morning read for like 5 to 10 minutes, in my opinion. Where it's like you crack it open, get some good thoughts into your brain, and you go and get the day going, right? Something where it's like tactical, something specific that you're looking to learn, maybe that's a book that you read more of, right? But figure out what you like with it. My biggest thing here is, read more, right? We sold for Ty Lopez for a long time, and he's ingrained that into us, and fully agree. Courses, coachings, and masterminds have probably been some of the single most highest ROI investments that I've ever made, but by far. I think even setting goals around that. I want to be able to drop 25 G's on some kind of master class. I want to be able to go to Grant Cardone and spend 100 grand on a front row ticket and get the VIP dinner and just get the top notch shit. The thing is the problems that you're currently facing, other people have the answers to them. Other people have spent years trying to figure them out, and they've distilled it down to a simplified version, right? You can trade money for that. It's the most insane concept in the world. I think for a big part of, and I just want to talk about this for a second because it's massive. I think especially when you're making less money, it's harder to invest into yourself, but that is the exact time when you need to be investing into yourself, right? Because that's how you get to the next level, right? It's the hardest, but it's when you need it the most. So figure out how you can do it, right? Figure out how to keep your money, set aside your bank accounts, set aside percentage allocations to this stuff, set goals with what you want. Don't do it stupid, but do it with intention. Enough said there. Travel, every time I travel and I go somewhere new and I get a new perspective on my life back home, I'm sure that's happening right now for a lot of you guys. When you guys as you're here for 3 days, you're thinking about your life back home, and you're going to come back home with a completely different perspective simply because you got in the room, right? A lot of the stuff we talk about on coaching calls, we talk about on YouTube videos, you can go consume the exact same information, but just by getting into the room, you're going to act on it, right? And same thing with tech. Like we make hundreds of thousands of dollars with this fucking phone. Get the new one, get the iPhone. If you're sending out green texts in 2024, like that's a problem. I was telling Keelan this, right? Like leads instantly. Does anyone in here have an Android?
No wonder.
Like just a side note, when you send out a green text versus a blue text, instantly there's a lower level of trust, right? So and like Android, Apple aside, like have good freaking technology, like this is our thing. This is our interface for us to utilize our skill sets and go and make the money that we want. Let's make it enjoyable. It should be smooth. It should be easy to use our technology. Don't cheap out on this stuff, right? Now, credit really quickly. When it comes to this, get your guys' credit score down. Real estate and kind of if you can, just to talk a little bit about real estate when we get into it. Before you even look at getting into real estate, this needs to be solid, right? With interest rates the way that they are, if you have a shit credit score, then you're basically screwing yourself out of being able to create any kind of wealth, right? Focus on your credit score. Make sure your payment history is proper. It's on time every single month. You're never missing that. Utilization, keep it under 30% no matter what. All of that stuff, and also length of history, right? The longer you have a credit card, the more credit cards you have, the better utilization that you have, and the stronger your payment history, that's where you're gonna get a high credit score. That's where you're gonna be in the 800s, you get the best interest rates, and you can do what you gotta do. Again, act as the person that you need to be, so that 5 years from now, when you're making an offer on a $2 million piece of property, you can lock it in, right? Limit is important. All of that stuff means nothing if your credit card limit is like $3 grand, right? That's something that, every quarter, every 6 months, as long as you're not stupid, as long as you can control yourself, and that's a big if, something that I struggled with a long time ago, full transparency, right? But if you can control yourself, keep raising up your limit, right? Because it's essentially an ongoing loan that you have. If you can get your credit card limit up to like 50, 100 grand a month, you have an ongoing loan that you always pay off. Now you're a lot more trustworthy. You can have an 800 credit score. If you have a $5,000 limit on all of your cards, that literally means nothing.
I have a really quick question about credit cards. I know you said earlier it's a export, so getting credit cards, would you recommend getting a personal one or a business one?
Both.
Both.
Cool. Investing. When you guys do start investing, again, I'm not telling you guys what to do. I'm just telling you guys what I did. I wasn't really investing into any kind of markets until I was making a pretty solid income. Okay. When you do this, also learn the lesson. Don't be a fucking trader. Okay. Don't if you guys are going to be closers, be closers. If you want to be a trader, go be a trader. Don't do both. From my personal experience, what I've noticed is that when I did try to do that shit, when I thought I was fucking smart and I can read the market, what happened was now I'm pulling energy and focus away from sales. You're right. And sales is the most important thing to me. This is the thing that is going to get me to where I want to be. Anything that is pulling my focus away from it, I limit completely. Right. And I noticed even if you're making money, you're not making money, whatever, if it's pulling my attention away from sales, that's a problem. That's going to hurt me in the long run. That's why I say don't do that. If you're going to do it, it's dollar cost averaging. It's setting aside an allocation every single month and putting it into the market no matter what. Okay. Zero emotions when shit hits the fan. When people get scared. I mean, you guys have seen the graph over the last 100 years, right? When people get scared, that's where you want to move, right? That's all I'm going to say on investing. Real estate. I think from what I know, I'm not investing into any real estate. But these are the reasons why we want to get into it. If you're buying S&P 500 or stocks, what you're getting is appreciation. Maybe you're getting a tiny dividend on that. With real estate, you're getting appreciation. It's paying you every single month. And probably, especially when you're making serious money, probably one of the biggest advantages is the tax advantage that comes with that, right? Probably the number one vehicle as to how you guys are going to transition from murdering sales and making a lot of money in this space to being able to, really create massive wealth, right? Is ultimately transitioning into a place where you're stacking up assets, you're getting your $10 million dollar portfolio, and you take advantage of all of this stuff right here. Your $10 million portfolio is going up 10, 20% every month. It's paying you, 20, 30 grand a month, no problem. And on top of that, it lowers your personal income tax, right? Did I get that right there? Anything else that you would want to add about that?
Not right. I think, hopefully we can have another mastermind in a year and you guys are all in the room and it's a higher level one, and by that point you're all making a lot of money and we'll talk through the tax advantages. But I know a lot of wealthy people, and you guys heard me saying that rich people don't pay taxes. Rich people do not fucking pay taxes. I'm not going to go for pound, but maybe in a year.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing that I'm really trying to get across here, this might be like for me, again, it took me a couple of years to get to a place where I'm really thinking about this and I'm really implementing a lot of this stuff. But the biggest shift for me was when I realized, hey, these are the goals that I have. I want to get to a place where I make that first million and do much more, right? And then I just work backwards, right? right? All of this stuff, it's something that if we expect to be wealthy, if we expect to be the ones in our family that changes everything, right? That just changes the rest of the lineage, then this stuff needs to be down pat. This stuff needs to be understood. So I would encourage you guys to continue learning about it as you continue making more money. Because what happens is, and really quick, I think what happens is when you start thinking about this stuff, when you start thinking about, hey, how much of a net worth do I want to have by the time I'm 25? What's my goal for that, right? When you set that mark, right, now we just work backwards. We look at everything else. How much do I have to make to be able to set aside a certain allocation every single month? Okay, great. What skills do I have to learn? And then all of a sudden you look at what you're currently doing, you say, damn, like this is what I'm making. I need to be all the way up here. And then that just translates straight back into the daily activities and the person that you need to become, right? Thinking about, at least for me personally, thinking about a lot of this stuff gives me a lot of clarity on that. And I act every single day with this stuff in mind, because this is how I structure, this is my step-by-step process to get to my goals, right? Let's do a couple questions and then we'll move on.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I know with detachment from the sale, there's a lot of things that happen that you can do, and I'm getting better at that. Also, like, it helps when you're making like more money, obviously. Like, do you find that when you invest more into assets, you've got more cash that's not directly coming from sales, that can actually help you more with detachment from sale, because you don't need it? Okay,
so the premise of that question is that money gives you confidence. I'd be lying if I said, the money that I have in the bank doesn't give me confidence, because it does, and that helps, but you're not going to get the money in the bank unless you can figure that out. So it's what I said earlier, right? Do you remember what I said about detaching from the sale when I was speaking the other day?
Yeah.
What did I say?
Well, it was about just showing up, setting the right standards, doing the things that you have to do every single day to make sure that there's no like.
Okay, yeah, and then that allows you to do what?
Put in the inputs to make the output happen.
When your actions are in total alignment with your goals, and you know that for a fact, when you're not missing, right? Everything we just spoke about. When you're doing every single thing, you figure this shit out, you get your finances tight. When you have everything set up, what happens is you create detachment of the outcome, right? You understand that I've set up all my shit properly, I'm getting better every single day, I'm never missing. Like, it is a fact that I am gonna get to where I'm trying to get to.
Yeah. And
And then when I'm speaking to fucking Johnny at 11 p.m. who's got belief problems, or 11 a.m., right? Like I'm not gonna be attached to that outcome. I'm not gonna be needy about that sale, right? So it's detachment from the outcome as a result of your actions and thinking about a lot of this stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
Why don't you invest in real estate?
I'm just not there yet. What's interesting? Over the last 2 years, stocks have performed significantly better than real estate has, right? And especially here in Canada, like the market is insane. Interest rates are crazy. For me, what I don't want to get into is a lot of debt. That's personally not in the cards right now. But what I'm doing is I'm stacking up cash. I'm creating wealth. I'm getting my credit right. I'm doing everything that I need to do, where in the next 1 to 2 years, we can make some pretty major plays, which is the goal, right? Thinking ahead, thinking in years, right? Most people think to the next fucking month, right? I think it's important to look at the big picture vision, stretch it out a few years, and then act in accordance with that vision. Well, guys, that's all for what I had to talk about. Thank you.